Darkness could arrive if Ed Pettit was still for too long. All that quietude, contemplation, meditation, not always good and not good for all. The darkness was like the setting sun. It would give way to the night, an inescapable veil being pulled over all things. Ed Pettit, after coming back from Vietnam, felt this darkness. With a kick and throttle of his Harley, his bike roared to life, and he could race from the darkness that would give chase. He could pull out from the reaching shadows and fire toward a lightness and a brightness of being. The roar of the bike could make Vietnam whisper and could make him feel in tune. Leaning into the bike's momentum made him feel safe. It made him feel free. June first met Ed as a roommate. Long before they would become married for almost 34 years. She first thought of him as distant, humble, kind, with either a softness or a vulnerability. She wasn't sure which. She hadn't found him handsome at first, until she saw how he treated others. At night, Ed would slip from her bed, kick the Harley to life, and roar down darkened roads. This he would do less and less, realizing that there was as much awaiting him back at home, the home he and June were building. Tools were quietly being lifted, and a life was being crafted together in the waking and sleeping hours of Ed and June. Vietnam, for those who loved Ed, understood it as a distant, lush, dark place that held a history of which he would never speak. It was a secret of forest floor, never to be seen through the thick canopy above. Ed found himself sitting with hands on knees, head bowed. After years of surviving, living for the self, and now a wife, a son, a daughter. This reality he had somehow been granted. Hands on knees, head bent, lest he lurch and the valuable and precarious world slip altogether. A bubble floating on a breeze among thorns. It is no longer the moving, it is the staying. If Vietnam had ripped something from him, then his motorcycle was a kind of needle that he rode across his wounds in order to be stitched back together. And if that was so, then when he stopped and accepted his goodness, as all others saw, family was the great panacea that was poured into what had been wounds. Family was the place that mattered. On a day when the sun sent columns of light to the ground, Ed's son Chris was to be baptized. There was no hesitation. Family as a place, and this tall, strong man bent toward his son and said, "Then I'm getting baptized too. I'm going where you're going." This was not a leap of faith. This was the securing of eternal love. Andrea's wedding day shimmered with its promise. She watched him. Her father sat, head bent, hands on knees. This big, strong man was bent to the task of not bearing misfortune, but rather the deluge of blessings. Andrea watched her father while her husband's arm was hooked under her own. She saw her father stand and open his chest so as to breathe in this moment, this event, this all. Ed would later sit among all the guests, awash in the pride he felt for this good group he had helped to bring together and even helped to create. Words can fail. There is often a disconnect between what is said and what is intended. On that day, Ed looked at family, his place. He sent an undeniable message to them all. I love you.